What up, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we talk about how to raise money successfully with a crowdfunding campaign, but also to help you reach your full potential as an innovator, as an e-commerce creator, as someone who's bringing new products, new ideas into the world, trying to make a positive impact on the universe, ethically dominate your niche market. We talk a lot about that, and I do that by bringing on real-world individuals who are doing exactly that, raising money every single week, and today was no exception. In fact, today we spoke with what I think is an incredibly inspirational, but also you're going to hear a ton of different tactics and tips when it comes to today's story. Today's individual actually started out with a smaller Kickstarter campaign, having raised a little over 10K with a Kickstarter campaign, and then he was able to snowball that into launching a massive e-commerce brand, doing 6 figures plus to build $1 million watch company and raise money with investment crowdfunding, also known as equity crowdfunding on Republic, for the tune of over $300,000, nearly $400,000 from more than 900 investors. And his company is going stronger than ever before. So you're going to hear how to actually build something from scratch. And I think that's the number one thing that's holding most people back. You maybe think it's the fact that, I'm so early in, I've never done this before. Maybe I'm in an age demographic that doesn't launch a lot of new businesses, or I'm in a place of the world where there aren't a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Or if you want to use business owners, you can do this no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your knowledge is, what you've done up until this point in time. I'm telling you, go into the archives of this podcast and you will find a story that speaks exactly to you. But not only that, you'll find the exact tactics, tips, tools, resources, and strategy to get you there from point A to point B fastest. And to me, that's really something I've been trying to do ever since I launched this podcast in 2015 and been in the crowdfunding industry since 2012. And I think that because when I was first getting started in 2012, and this sounds crazy, this kind of makes me sound a little bit dumb, honestly. I was publishing articles on my blog, crowdcrux.com, a lot of my findings when it was coming to crowdfunding. I was doing this logistic regression for a mini econ thesis at George Washington University, comparing the different categories on Kickstarter. I was publishing a lot of my findings. I was helping a lot of people. And I started to get literally thousands of people visiting my website every single day. And I was like, what? This can't be real people. These are just random hits right on my website. And then I started to get these media publications reaching out to me. And I started to get featured on these publications. They're big names, right? Like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Forbes, CNN, Hypebot, even Indiegogo's blog. And to me, it was insane. It was blowing my mind. But I had this epiphany moment. I realized that when you decide to put yourself out there, whether that's with a blog, with a crowdfunding campaign, with an e-commerce product, being willing to be visible using digital marketing, social media, etc., the tools that are available to you right now, you could have an entire world which discovers your unique creation. Be that a new product, a new tabletop, a new board game, a new comic book, a new book that you've published, even a film, something you're trying to raise money for. If you're using the power of the internet, you can get discovered online, and it's like a snowball effect. So in today's interview, you're going to discover how that happened exactly for this individual creator and entrepreneur. If you kind of want to cut to the chase when it comes to this, because I know not everyone is just looking for that story, but you really want the tactics behind this, right? The mechanics of crowdfunding. I got an incredible book I'm going to share with you today. This book is called The Kickstarter Launch Formula. I've dialed everything when it comes to being successful with a crowdfunding campaign, what you got to do every step of the way, all of the unique tricks that I've discovered, and I put this into one slender volume called The Kickstarter Launch Formula. If you want to grab a copy of this on Amazon, you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter formula. Or if you want to grab a copy on Audible and hear me read it with my passion and my enthusiasm, my kind of crazy ferocity, right, in the way that I talk, you can go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That will take you there, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. I will share with you as well a couple of resources at the end of this podcast, but I want to get straight into the interview. Let's discover what this individual did in order to build a multi-six-figure e-commerce company, raise over nearly $400,000 on Republic, and do a really incredible job of growing a brand from scratch. And it's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we were talking about selling products online and also Kickstarter. And really, we have an incredible guest for you today who's been able to have tremendous success in this area. I'm so excited to talk to Marcel today and would love to welcome him to the podcast. Marcel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Salvador.
Definitely, man. Maybe you can get started. You can kind of introduce yourself to the audience and just tell a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. My name is Marcel Benson. I'm the founder and CEO of Benson by Marcel. And my story is a simple one. It's one of courage and tenacity, one of someone who was a normal guy working corporate who decided to, bet on himself, right? So it all started when I was 7 years old. I got my first timepiece and I collected about 100 different timepieces from the age of 7 to 25. But somewhere in between that time, I bought into the idea of going the traditional route. I wound up going to school, getting a degree in business, and then working a corporate job. And though, I was pretty good at the job, it wasn't really providing me the fulfillment that I needed. I felt like I wasn't able to really use the creativity that I had on the job. So one day I decided to walk into HR, turn in my resignation letter, and then off I began on the journey of what Benson by Marcel is today.
Ooh, yeah, that takes a lot of guts just to do that and to walk in and to like go cold turkey, right? That takes a lot of guts to do that.
Absolutely. But I think it was more so just realizing that, if I could do something that I didn't like well, then how well could I do something that I loved? So that was really the driver behind it.
Yeah, that's a great one. So you decided to then go off on your own. What year is this that you decided to do that?
September 6th, 2017 was the exact date that I quit. So it's been about 5 years.
Great. So you decided to go off on your own. And did you have an idea at that point, or did you have a product at that point, or like kind of what were you going through there?
Yeah. So the company was already incorporated, but it was, just kind of like a hobby at the moment. I would sell maybe a couple watches here and there, and I would hand deliver them. So we were making maybe a couple $100s a month at that point. And, I realized that I wanted to, really take this serious. And the only way to really go to that next level was to be, all the way involved in the company. So I knew I had to make a choice at some point. So I decided to choose myself.
And where were you selling these watches? Was this online? Was this via crowdfunding? How were you selling these?
Yeah, so the initial watches were sold via crowdfunding. We did a Kickstarter campaign to get the first inventory, and set out to raise about $10,000. Wound up raising about $12,000, so a little bit more than we expected, and that's how we got our first, inventory run of the watches. Mm-hmm. And the people that donated got a free watch. And we had some left over, because of the markup for the prices. For the watches. And so with those remainder watches, we sold online, but we weren't really aware of, ad spend and all the bells and whistles that help you scale a company. We just understood that we needed to sell watches, so we had them online. And I was reaching out to people personally. I remember like texting people like, "Hey, you can go buy my watch now. Remember that watch company I was telling you about? Well, it's here. Go get it." So it was a pretty non-traditional, format, pretty out of the box. But it was those times that really allowed me to, to fall in love with the brand and really make connections with people on a one-on-one basis.
So you had a campaign that was successful. So you had some inventory, had some people that were giving you good feedback, right, on the product. And then you decided to go all in, right, when it comes to this and really bet on yourself, it sounds like. So out of curiosity, just to kind of, draw a contrast, where would you say you are today? Like what kind of sales are you doing? Or like how would you categorize your success today?
Today we're doing much more. Like I said, we've gone from, making, a couple $100s a month to, tens and tens of thousands of dollars per month.
Wow.
And, still scaling, working to reach to that next level. But, things are definitely in a growth phase right now.
That's so cool. I mean, to think that you've been able to do that in such a short time span, no pun intended. And, you also are doing something that you love. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say our slogan is actually time should be spent doing what you love. So that's a big part of, how I move, right? Like the reason that I quit my job was this was like essentially the reminder that I was giving myself when I quit my job, and then I turned it into the slogan. And it's that people really gravitate towards, because a lot of people that purchase the watches are not necessarily super watch connoisseurs. A lot of them are people who have dreams of being free in some way, whether it's doing something creatively or quitting their job like I did and just living life on their terms. So the community is really made up of, people that love a beautiful aesthetic, but also really believe in the idea that time should be spent doing what you love.
So in thinking about this, just so that listeners can understand, what would you say really makes the defining difference with your product? Is it the craftsmanship? Is it the colors, the design? What's really the differentiator when it comes to your watches?
It's a little bit of everything, right? Like, when you look at a lot of watches, yeah, they vary, but I don't believe that watches can vary, but so much, right? There's a silhouette, there's colors. So we do have, dress watches with bold colors and things like that. But I think what really differentiates the watch is the quality of it within the price point. So, when I was younger, all the watches that I collected, or the ones that I gravitated towards, I'm not going to say the ones I necessarily collected, but the ones that I gravitated towards were typically out of my price point. So I wanted to create something that, gave a high-end aesthetic, a high-end, like clean, minimalistic aesthetic, but within a range that the common person could afford.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you're bringing down the price point and allowing people to really sample luxury, right? Who've maybe never been able to do that before. So very cool mission. I also see that you did a Republic campaign as well. So you also explored a little bit with equity crowdfunding. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So we're still kind of in the thick of that. That was we did one round of that. The second round is really what we're gearing up towards. And we believe that this will take us to the point where we can reach our goal of actually being acquired. So that's really the goal of the company, is to scale it, grow it, and then, leave it in the hands of a company who's been doing it for centuries.
And with that campaign, I think you did around a little bit under 400K, like 396K, right? With that campaign.
That's correct.
Congratulations. That's awesome. So you did both. You did Kickstarter and then you did equity crowdfunding.
Right. Kickstarter in the very, very beginning. And then, equity crowdfunding once we started to get a little bit of traction.
So you're definitely leading into the trends here. I mean, that's awesome, the way that you're going to the crowd and you're sort of building this company together, right, with your following. And thinking about this, first of all, do you have any lessons on the crowdfunding front? Is this something that you are glad you did? Would you do it again? What do you think about that point?
Absolutely. I think that there's so many different ways to get funding. That's one thing that is absolutely a requirement of growing a company, is capital. There are various ways to get it. There's loans, there's angel investors, there's venture capital. But I believe crowdfunding is the best way for a startup to capitalize on any sort of traction that they've been able to build with their community. So, typically, companies that are doing, less than $1 million, they have a pretty close-knit community. They may have, a few thousand or more customers, unique customers, which is plenty of people to help, fund the next step of the company. And, you'll find that a lot of people that buy into the company at such an early stage, they're buying into you, and they really do want to be a part of your story. They really do want to be a part of your growth. So, just as long as you do right by people, as time goes on and you continue to, make those hand-to-hand sales, and you continue to, leverage your sphere of influence and, people that you've connected with over the years, you'd be surprised how many of them, really want to be involved in your growth and your success. But I think the key is definitely just building the thing first, right? Like not expecting everyone to support you right out the gate, not expecting everything to work out exactly how you see it in your mind right away, but to continue just building brick by brick, putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually you'll look up and you'll see that there are, quite a bit of people out there that, that want to support you. So it's just up to you to provide that opportunity to them. And if you've been a trustworthy person, if you've been a good person, they'll have no problem, pitching in.
Yeah, I mean, hearing that, I can just tell the tenacity, right? That you're actually going out there and you're pursuing your vision and you're having your head down, you're disciplined, you're getting great stuff out there, right? Great quality products. I think for someone who might be listening to this show, they might hear like, "Oh my gosh, this guy went from selling, $100, a couple $100 a month to tens of thousands of dollars, raising money from 10K to over 400K, right?" What do you feel like really propelled the growth for you personally or for the business when it came to like leaping from that stage in the beginning to where you are now? What kind of propelled that growth, would you say?
Well, firstly, I'd say like just having a good product, right? That's where you start with. But so having a good product makes it a lot easier. I mean, I've even seen not so good products do really well, due to marketing. But if you want people to come back and you want that sustained growth over time, then you definitely want to start with having a good product. So, it should be something that you're possibly passionate about, something that a little bit about, so that you're not turning a blind eye to things that consumer needs, right? And you want to see if you can solve a problem in the market. And what I saw was that one, there wasn't much representation from my community in the watch space, and then two, there weren't a lot of companies that were providing the quality that I know a lot of people require in that space. So by addressing those things, we were able to definitely see some growth. And as you continue to do business, you'll start seeing other niches in the market and other problems that need to be solved. And as long as you're keeping your pulse to the industry, you can pivot your business to address those as well.
In thinking about your journey, was there a moment where you were like, yes, I am so glad I quit my job? Like it was a confirmation of every decision you had made up until that point in time, which was a little bit risky, right? Was there a moment or a phase where you felt like, yes, this was all worth it?
Absolutely. I mean, right now we have about 10,000 unique customers, right? So I remember the first inventory run was just a couple of hundred pieces, and I was just excited to to pass a watch hand to hand over to a customer. I would literally get in my car and drive the watches to people, which would be nearly impossible now. But there's something to like that, like making that connection early on, that I think really really put things into perspective, that it's really about the customer, right? So now seeing like customers extremely excited about the progress and people who've been on the journey for years, that makes me look back and say, hey, I'm truly, living in my purpose, and I definitely made the right decision, by quitting my job.
Yeah, for sure. I think getting that kind of response and having people really enjoy it and have it be a part of their wardrobe, like there's no other reward, right? Other than that. One of the things you mentioned.
I'll share this with you really quickly. I remember just being out one day. I was actually, going to a restaurant to get some food. I was living in Studio City at the time, which is in like Valley in LA. And I bumped into a guy who was wearing a Benson watch. And he didn't know I was the CEO. He didn't know I was the founder or anything like that. Like he didn't recognize me. But I was just like, man, that's a really nice watch. And he's like, yeah. And then he told me the whole story. He told me my story. He told me the whole story to Benson. And just to see how excited he was gave me like a real look at, what's going on the other side. Because, a lot of times we're selling watches, but we don't know exactly how people are receiving them. But to, go outside and see people wearing them is like, there's no feeling greater than that.
Yeah, and also the fact that you're really giving that person like such a unique timepiece that they're going to have with them for a long time. Like I don't know, at least when it comes to me, if I have a watch, like it's something that I'm keeping with me for a while, right? And I have like memories associated with that. So it's really cool to integrate, I think, in that way. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, That is FULFILLRITE.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. One other question I had kind of on the strategy side was, you mentioned like other brands out there being able to pull something off, just having good marketing. What have you learned about marketing and, driving traffic and getting people to buy this? What have you learned about marketing that you feel like you could pass on to the audience?
I think this is a really good thing to keep in mind, right? Oftentimes we're trying to figure out like who our demographic is and what they like, and we spend so much time off in the wrong direction trying to figure it out. So here's something to remember: if you're creating something, you want to solve a problem, you want to know more about who this person is that's going to be consuming the product. Well, since you're the person creating it and you're the person who is interested in this product, just self-reflect, survey yourself, ask yourself what you're interested in. What do you like? What things do you like to do? What places do you like to frequent? What, countries do you like to travel to? Whatever, the demographic is, whatever the psychographics are, you want to make sure that they're pertaining to you. What problems do you need solved for yourself? And solve those things. It'll make it a lot more easier. And I think the best strategy, especially in today's world, is just authenticity. So telling your unique story, something that, actually happens, something that's related to you, because 9 times out of 10, there's a whole world of people out there that you've never met who've gone through something extremely similar, and it's going to resonate with them more than you could ever imagine. We spend a lot of our time alone sometimes, like, I feel like in this country, people isolate quite a bit. We're connected online, but we isolate in person. So a lot of times you don't know exactly what everyone's doing or exactly what everyone's feeling or what they've been through. But when you tell your story from a genuine place and just put it out there, you'd be surprised how many people gravitate towards it. Like, I had no idea that so many people would be like, man, I'm about to quit my job because of this. Like, you did it. I've seen it over the course of 5 years. Like, I'm in the process of quitting my job. Right. So we all have stories. That's what connects us. That's what has blended history in the present. Right. That's how everything continues to flow and grow, is by the telling of stories. So it's very important to to have one and make it be genuine.
When it comes to telling your story, I think it's something that we don't really consider as, an inventor or someone who's making a new product. We tend to make it all about the product, right? So the story, it sounds like, is playing into the brand, right? And kind of like the why people are buying the product. So would you say, in telling the story, is this like a deliberate exercise you went through? Because you obviously aren't, to tell your entire life story. It's like, did you go through like a deliberate exercise thinking about the traits you wanted to embody, or like, talk to me just a tiny bit about your process?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, the slogan is that time should be spent doing what you love. So, I really embody that, that message. It was a mantra that I recited to myself to keep myself on the path of entrepreneurship, because we all know that it can get very difficult. There's moments where it can be stagnant. There's economical things that can impact your business. So, the journey is arduous, and it can be tough. So that mantra is where the story was birthed, right? Like, I knew that I couldn't imagine myself working to 65 or 70, whatever the retirement age was, in a cubicle and staring at a screen. And, I felt like I just was honest. A lot of people do things and it's not what they truly want to do. And it's never to knock anyone that has a job, right? But, I think that there are things in this life that are a means to an end, or they're a season in our life. And if you really want to live at your highest level, it has to, in some way, resonate with who you are. It has to be something that came from you, right? If you just kind of like adopt something else and you're like acting or pretending, then that's kind of the results that you'll receive. You'll feel like kinda excited or kinda fulfilled, right? So the only way to feel the wholeness of the fulfillment is to do something that came from you. So when I tell that story, I think that it's something that people are feeling anyway, and they're just like, oh, he got up and said it, and it really, and I see the passion, and it resonates. So it's not really much of a strategy. It's really just like kind of like living in accordance to what you believe is true.
Yeah, and I think, you might even be doing it without, unintentionally, which is people, who want to also live that lifestyle, right? They care what they have on their wrist, right? It's like a sign of like professionalism. And it's also just like, it's really cool. It's like one of those rewards, or those perks that you have when you're starting to do well, right, in your career. So I think it's a great story, and I think that it's difficult for many other people to tell their story. So I appreciate you sharing that. So I just have one or two more questions, when it comes to, sort of your launch and understanding what's been working well for you. So my first one is, when it comes to creating a product from scratch, I think a lot of people will start with an idea and it just kind of just falls on deaf ears. Like they don't do anything with it. Why do you feel like, or are there any tips that you have to really follow through and actually take action on that idea, get something out there, so that other people can buy it? Do you feel like there's any things that what's really holding other people back, I guess, is a better question.
Fear. It's that simple. And I can make a hour-long, response to that. But to keep it very simple, it's fear. And I think that it's not a specific thing that I can tell you. It's something that's worth examining, within your own life. So anybody that's listening to this, examine the things that kind of bring up some sort of fear. What is it that you truly want to do? But in some way, you've been made to believe that you're either too old to do it, you're either too, big, small, whatever the hurdle is. Finding a way to supersede that, finding a way to go around that or go through that. And that's when things begin to open up, because the trust that you need in yourself, which is also called confidence, it comes from you, doing hard things, you being proud of yourself for, taking the initiative and getting to that next level, even though you were afraid. Now it's a normal thing to be fearful of, the unfamiliar, right? It's something about human beings. We're always trying to protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. But the reality is there is no danger. We're not like living out in the wild, but, that instinct still lives within us, and it can be brought out in unfamiliar situations. So if you start to practice leaning into situations that, get your heart beating a little bit or cause a little bit of fear, you'll realize once you get to the other side, like, hey, that wasn't so bad. And as you continue to do that, you build up more strength and, more of a muscle to power through anytime you feel fear. And then as time goes on, you'll realize that there's really nothing to be afraid of.
Love that. And I think that, like you mentioned, is a muscle, right? Really building up the strength for that, so you can then push through even bigger barriers of fear. My last question for you is kind of something you mentioned a little bit earlier, which is this idea about having a sphere of influence. And I think that plays a lot into fear as well, and kind of helping you get something off the ground. But clearly your sphere of influence has helped with, your investment raise, with your Kickstarter, with your selling products online, and knowing the right people. Do you have any advice or thoughts on developing that sphere of influence for someone who maybe is starting without one?
Get out there, and always think of relationships as not something that is just for you. Think of it as a two-way street, something that can be mutually beneficial, and it should be genuine. So when you go out, like, networking doesn't just happen at networking events. It happens anywhere you are. So when you're out, just make sure that you're, starting a conversation with people, letting it flow organically. Everybody may not be for you, right? Everybody's not going to be somebody that goes in your cell phone, but everything is about practice to get over what seems so hard. So if you make it a practice to just speak to everyone when you're out, you now have the muscle, again, going back to that, of communicating and not being afraid to meet people and see what synergies there may be there, right? And it's like another thing to also consider is that you want to lead with giving. So you want to be the one who tries to provide the value first. You want to be the one who studies and observes to see what ways that you can enhance the life of somebody else. And this is not always monetary. It can work with whatever it is that you have to give. So even if it's a smile that you have to give, or some kind words, or a handshake, this is something that will work wonders for you. Just by consistently showing up in that way, you begin to have a reputation of just being a good human being and somebody who was always looking to provide value. And karmically that will come back to you. And also people they operate on reciprocity. So they'll feel compelled to do something for you. So I think it's just always good to just show up, be present, and see how you can insert yourself into helping people in your daily practice.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. So first of all, where can people go to learn more about your products? Where can they go to learn more about your potential future campaigns? Where should they check you out online?
Absolutely. You can go to bensonwatch.com, which is BENSON watch.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Benson Watch, as well on Facebook, which is Benson by Marcel. So yeah, I would love to to have you all. If you heard about this through this podcast, definitely shoot me a DM and I'll say hello. We can chat for a little bit. I would love to meet some of you guys.
Awesome. Cool. And I'll be sure to link those up in the show notes. And my final question for you is, and we can end on this note, you can either end with a final word of encouragement for people out there that are trying to launch products, start brands, build something from scratch, or a favorite quote that you'd like, or a final tip about marketing or crowdfunding, anything along those lines. And we can end on that note.
Yeah, I just say anybody who's listening to this, you're listening to this because you are seeking a better life. You are seeking some sort of information that will resonate with you that you can apply. I want to tell you that fear is the only thing that is keeping you in a place, and it's really not a thing. It's not real, right? It's something that we've kind of been conditioned to believe. So if you ever find yourself desiring something and then you talk yourself out of it, that, my friend, is fear. So what I want you to start doing is talking yourself into things, even if it's a small step that you take. So say you want to write a book, just commit to writing one chapter and then let that next step inform you, right? Like when you write that first chapter, let's see if you can get to the second one, and just continue doing that. And just, I want you to really embrace like the feeling of accomplishment that starts to, come over you. So I'll leave you guys with that. Like, never let fear influence you. It's not real. It's a way of keeping you small, and you're not small.
Well said. Wise words. Thank you so much, Marcel, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And good luck with your remaining, if you do a campaign.
Thanks a lot, Salvador.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode and really learned a lot when it comes to launching a brand from scratch, growing that brand, getting funding, right, for your vision, for your passion, for your dream, for the products you're working on. And if you really want those tactics, I have a great video course, a video training course that accompanies my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, and I am giving it away to you. All you have to do is go to the link I'm about to mention, enter your name and an email, and you will start getting some video training from me every single week, warming it up to how to do a crowdfunding campaign, but also sharing with you the resources, the tools, and the step-by-step behind that. So if you want to check that out, go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link will take you there, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Now, for me, I've been thinking a lot about, again, the sort of the moments that have really, stuck strongly with me when it comes to my entrepreneurial career. I think one honestly, like when I was younger, I was growing up in a really small town. So I grew up in a very small town in Massachusetts, really small town near Concord, and there's like nothing going on right in this small town. There aren't really people that are thinking about crazy technology ideas, and maybe you relate with that. Maybe you're from an area where there just aren't a lot of business owners, aren't a lot of people that are thinking creatively or thinking outside the box, and you're kind of feeling like almost like a bit of an outsider, right? When it comes to your vision or your passion, or there aren't other people that you're familiar with in your career that are trying to launch something new and using crowdfunding to do this. Well, I'm telling you, I felt the exact same way. And I think that for me, it was only honestly once after I traveled to New York, I started to actually get more outside of the United States. I started to travel, that I started to realize that there are different ways of living, different ways of doing things. Like the first time I went to Southeast Asia and I went for a whole month, and I was 25 years old. It was like, man, oh man, my mind was blown seeing the different ways that people live life, seeing the types of businesses, how they differ as they change. And you travel the world, you go to Europe, you go to South America, you go to Central America, right? You go all over. You have so many different examples of very unique businesses that are hitting it big. Products that you never imagined would be successful in Asia are incredibly successful around the world. And what you start to realize is that when you launch a crowdfunding campaign, you get access to a global marketplace. You can reach customers and buyers that are literally all over the world. But at the same time, it can be a little bit daunting. It can be a little bit intimidating. And I think there's nothing to be ashamed of, but sometimes to punch through the noise and really do something you've never done before can be a little bit scary. So this is one of the reasons why I make myself available as a coach when it comes to helping people launch crowdfunding campaigns. I've been doing this ever since I started the podcast pretty much. And I've had so many people come away from these coaching sessions with unlimited confidence, just feeling so good going into their crowdfunding campaign, knowing exactly what they have to do every step of the way, giving you feedback on all of your material up until this point in time, suggesting to you which platform is right in some cases, the marketing strategy, what you should be doing when it comes to your unique individual case, situation, resources, etc. And I talk about this all in my intensive coaching sessions. Now, if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, I have to tell you, this is an investment. This is not for everyone. But if you really want to get from point A to point B fastest, if you also want to make sure you do this right, you build the foundation right, and you don't want to waste time and waste money, right? Because there's so many different things that you just don't know when it comes to a crowdfunding campaign. I can guide you and I can help you. If you go to the link I'm about to mention, you fill out this form, tell me more about you, and you book your individual coaching call ASAP. Whether you're listening in the car or you're listening while you're traveling or you're on the way to work or whatever it is, remember this link and go and check this out in your browser or bring it up on your phone when you get a chance. This link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. We'll take you there and you can book your intensive coaching call with me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Got a lot of cool stuff actually coming out in the next couple of weeks, and I hope that you enjoy it. And honestly, if nothing else, I really just hope that you're taking some action. The number one thing that separates my community from every other community out there when it comes to podcast listeners, when it comes to YouTube viewers, when it comes to readers, is that we are willing to take action. We're willing to push through that fear. So I hope you do that in a small way, or you just learn a little bit more and get access to that right data this week. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and I will see you next time.
Mm-hmm.